They just lost a core player. And, he allows them to do a lot of different things with their lineups. One of the strengths of this Nets team is the way they can play different ways because they have. He can be lead guard. And the other reality is, look, the Eastern Conference is tightly packed. You couldn't have a really good record in the East this year and end up with a 5 seed. And there's a possibility that Kyrie Irving is going to miss a bunch of games this year. He's already sitting out back-to-backs, and he gets dinged up. And now the guy that they had to be their lead guard, if Kyrie Irving as insurance, is not going to be there. And so they are a deep team. They can probably weather this storm better than other teams can. But also on a personal level for Spencer, this was a contract year. He does have a player option next year for $12 million, so he's protected. But he was looking to hit it big in the free agent market, and now that's going to be impacted by this injury.
I don't know if this correlates in any way, to be honest, Windy, but I still wonder if James Harden is being floated with the Nets, and the lack of depth now with Dinwiddie out maybe makes them think, let's go with a 3-pronged star attack, but it also takes away another piece for them to offer up. Does this factor in at all, and is James Harden really still on the radar with the Nets team?
Well, James Harden would love to be in Brooklyn. He's made that abundantly clear. But I just don't know if the Nets have the package of players that really excites the Rockets. And one of the things that the Rockets have kind of made clear, and I got to tell you, I don't blame them for this. The Rockets have made clear that they want a premium package for James Harden. And you look at kind of what the Lakers got for Anthony Davis, a year and a half ago, I guess now, where it was a bunch of promising young players and a bunch of draft picks. And the Nets just don't have that. They don't have the Brandon Ingram. They don't have the Lonzo Ball. And their future draft picks aren't as exciting because you think that they're going to be a good team. And right now, there's no other stars available. It's not like there's 3 superstars out there on the market and the Nets can go shopping elsewhere. So I just think that the Rockets are willing to let the bidding war go on James Harden, who, by the way, despite all of his issues, is off to a terrific start, despite not being in great shape. And I just don't think the Nets have it. I think it would take them to make a separate deal to juice their package. And so while I understand it's still on the board and I can't rule it out, I just don't see that as a trade match.
We're talking to Brian Windhorst, ESPN senior NBA writer. So, Brian, yesterday we saw Ja Morant go down with an injury. I saw reports indicated that he left on a wheelchair. What's the latest with Ja?
Yeah, so they're going to have an MRI today. The real question is, what is the degree level of this ankle sprain? If it is a 2nd-degree sprain, it's going to be weeks. If it's a 3rd-degree sprain, which is, almost the worst thing you can have other than a broken ankle, it could be, a couple of months. And that's what they're going to determine with this MRI. The scary thing about this injury, he was challenging a shot. He's got an electric leaping ability. He had jumped so high on this play, and so he came crashing down. So the hope is that it's just going to be something that is, keeps him out, maybe a couple of weeks. But the velocity at which he went down is rough, and that's a Grizzlies team that is already missing Jaren Jackson, who's their 2nd best player, for an undetermined amount of time as he recovers from knee surgery. And with where the Western Conference is and how tightly packed it is, you lose your best player like Ja Morant, you lose him for 3-4 weeks without Jaren Jackson. In a 72-game season, it might be unrecoverable for this Grizzlies team, and that would be unfortunate, but also the reality.
Windy, it's scary to think, as they're the reigning champs, the LA Lakers, LeBron and AD led. Is it possible to say they are not only better, but significantly better this season?
Well, they're different, and different in good ways and bad ways. They changed their team quite a bit, and especially at the center position. Last year they had really high athlete, rim protecting, basket, glass cleaning centers in JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard. And I know that those guys weren't core parts of their star roster, but those guys really defined how they played, especially defensively. And now they have Montrezl Harrell, who is not a strong defender. In fact, last night in the game against Portland, the Blazers' whole attack down the stretch of that game was to attack Montrezl Harrell, and it helped them win that game. And then Marc Gasol, who's one of the shrewdest and smartest defenders out there, former Defensive Player of the Year, but doesn't move like that. So I still think they're going to be a very good defensive team, but they're different. And then on the perimeter, with introducing Dennis Schroeder and introducing the way they run their offense. So they're trying to run their offense more through Marc Gasol. That means less playmaking a little bit for LeBron James, which, again, could be a good thing to take some pressure off him, but is different. So you look at the Lakers, you see depth. You definitely see a great chance for them to repeat. But it would not surprise me if over the first couple of months of the season, we see some choppy play from them because they do have to alter just the way that they go about in their attack.
Okay, let's go back to James Harden really quick, Wendy, for a second. So we saw the other day Daryl Morey send out a tweet about James Harden. Obviously, Daryl Morey is now the general manager for the 76ers, so this was a little bit confusing. So I ask you, does this mean that the 76ers are now talking to James Harden and that's what was top of his mind, or Daryl Morey just needs someone to help him with his social media?
I mean, Daryl Morey is a smart guy. That was not a smart move. That was instantaneously like, what are you doing? And the Rockets were pissed off about it, and rightly so. And the league slapped him for it because even though it may seem innocuous, there's a lot of tension there. I mean, just the concept of having a negotiation over a star player, especially when it lasts over a long period of time, that's difficult. Then you introduce the fact that Daryl Morey has just left that team. It's pretty much a 1 in a million situation. I can't remember in almost 20 years of covering the NBA where there's been this type of negotiation from a guy that just changed general managers, just changed front offices. It's unheard of. So everybody's a little bit jumpy about it. It doesn't mean that the talks are any different. There have been offers swapped between the teams, and they're not satisfactory right now. And I would say, sitting here in late December, that if I had to make a wager on which team had the most likely chance.
I was talking to Jalen about where to expect him to wind up. And Jalen used a term that I think is a very appropriate one in this circumstance. He said, if you're a team that is interested in finding a way to make yourself better, James Harden is an acquired taste. And I've always liked that expression. When I was a kid, I hated mustard. You couldn't put mustard near anything, I wouldn't eat it. I didn't like the way it smelled. Hot dogs, Sabret stand in the street. No mustard. Hated mustard. Openly hated mustard. Now, I'm addicted to mustard. I love mustard. You could put mustard on a shoe and I would eat it. That's how much I love mustard. So I acquired the taste. James Harden is kind of like that. Because if you're going to bring James Harden in, here's what he's going to do. He's going to put up huge numbers. He's going to make your games interesting. He's going to sell tickets. But is he going to help you win? That's really the question. So if you're a bad team, I understand wanting Harden. Bad, get better. Just let him do all the things he does. Let him dribble the air out of the clock. Let him take step-back threes. He's a walking 30-point triple-double. But is there any evidence that suggests that A, playing that way is a way to win, and B, that he is ever going to win when the games matter the most? The answer to that, or both of those questions, is no. There's no evidence that anyone, any team whose lead player plays like that is going to win anything of consequence. You're going to win a bunch of regular season games, but are you going to win the ones that matter? To me, the answer is no. And James Harden, we all know it. The history is well documented. He's very, very good in a lot of months, but May is not one of them. That's just the reality of it. I don't mean that to sound nasty. It sort of came out of my mouth maybe a little meaner than I meant it to. I'm just making a statement of fact. His postseason performances speak for themselves. So to me, the two places he seems to want to go, Brooklyn and Philadelphia. If you're the Sixers, are you trading Ben Simmons to get him? Because for the life of me, I can't figure out why Houston would trade him to Philadelphia if they weren't getting Ben Simmons back. I believe that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid will never win a championship together. So in that regard, you might say to yourself, it's worth the risk. But honestly, I would say no. If I were Philadelphia, I would try and figure out another way to get this done. I might even just run it back again this season as is with the new coach and hope he can figure out a way to make it work. But if it involves trading Simmons, I'm not doing it. And then as far as Brooklyn, the one question you have is, what is KD doing while Kyrie and James Harden are averaging 20 seconds of dribbling per possession. So is that trade being made without Kyrie being a part of it? I don't know. If you're Houston, you do not have your back against the wall. Harden cannot make you do anything. This is not Anthony Davis in the last year of his contract. They can trade him wherever they want to, and they cannot trade him if they don't want to. So he can't dictate the terms. They can dictate the terms. So if Brooklyn wants him, I don't know. Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie enough to say, okay, I'll give you James Harden? I don't think it is. But if you're Kevin Durant, now all of a sudden, if you're looking at the possibility of getting Harden or keeping Irving, I think I'm keeping Irving. Now, Kyrie needs to sort of get all this other stuff straightened out. We just heard from Charles Barkley a few minutes ago, if you were with me. But if they work the off-the-court stuff out, I'd rather have, if I'm KD, I'd rather have Kyrie on the court as far as how the skills meld together than Harden. So I believe Harden will get traded, but I don't think it's as simple as people make it sound, and I'm not sure either of those are the places he's going to wind up. And because he is exactly that, he is mustard. He is an acquired